Hi everyone and welcome back to the day 8 session on Java. So in the last session we learned about has a relation. We learned about how a parent class reference can hold the object of child class and few more things as well. Let me share my screen. All right, so this was the example that we learned in the last session. Then we learn about dynamic dispatch concept as well. The dynamic dispatch, it means if we have, in this case, like fruit f is equal to new mango. I have actually object of mango class, but I'm referring that as a fruit class. And in both the classes, there is a method make milkshake. So if you say f dot make milkshake, you might see that this method is actually coming from fruit. Okay, this is like compile time. So you can see that this method is referred from fruit class, but if you run this program, actually it is going to print it is going to call make milkshake method from the mango class, not from the fruit class. So this mechanism is known as a dynamic dispatch, or also known as dynamic binding, because runtime binding, because the binding of this method call and the method definition is done at the runtime. So that was one thing that we learned in the last session. Let's move forward. We have plenty of topics to cover. So we are done with learning the inheritance, but let me revise few things, or let's quickly discuss about the few things that we have not learned yet. The one thing is object class is ultimate parent of all classes. Okay, that we learn. Second is there are types of inheritance. Okay, the one type is single inheritance. Second level is multi-level in inheritance. Now what is single inheritance? Single inheritance is, let's say class A is extended into class B, that is single inheritance. Multi-level inheritance, it means class A is extended into class B and B class is again extended into class C. This is multi-level because there are multiple levels. There are two more inheritance types: multiple inheritance, and multi-level inheritance is also sometimes referred as hierarchical inheritance. Okay, hierarchical inheritance, I will just not write. So multiple inheritance and hybrid. Okay, hybrid is actually combination of hierarchical and the multiple inheritance, but it is multiple plus hierarchical inheritance, But in Java, multiple inheritance is not supported. Okay, in Java doesn't support multiple inheritance. Now what is multiple inheritance? Multiple inheritance means, let's say you have one parent class A and you are deriving two classes from that A class, let's say class B and class C. Okay, so sorry, my bad, actually I wanted to say something like this. You have two classes, class A and class B, and you are trying to derive a class C by taking both as a parent. Okay, so now class C has two parents, A class and class B. So this is extending multiple classes into one class. This is not supported in Java. We can only extend one class. Okay, not more than one class. Is that clear, guys? So we do not have multiple inheritance. Okay, that's one thing. And as we don't have multiple inheritance, hybrid inheritance is also not supported. All right. So these are the two different inheritance types which are there in C, C++, but which is removed from Java due to some reasons. We don't have it. Okay. Fine. But that is the reason we have interfaces. Interfaces. Okay. That is the reason. So some people say that interfaces can used to support or to implement multiple inheritance. Okay. Interfaces used to implement multiple interface inheritance. Sorry, but how to do that? That's a complete different story. We have not started yet learning interfaces. We will be covering that as the next topic. But before that, I wanted to have discussion about few things in inheritance topic. Okay. Oops, sorry. So again, I'm telling you, these two inheritance are supported, whereas multiple inheritance and hybrid inheritance is not supported in Java. All right, fine. Okay. In the last session, we also learned about final keyword. Okay, there are actually three uses of a final keyword. First use is declare constants. Declaring constant, it means if you are using final keyword with a variable, that variable becomes a constant. Okay. In that topic, we also learned about a blank final. Blank final, if the variable is a class member and you don't initialize that value, you don't initialize the final variable value, still it is okay. Okay. But in the constructor, you must have to assign a value for that final variable. So that final variable is known as a blank final. But in constructor, you must have to give a value. And this rule is not applicable for the static final. If a variable is a static final, that means the variable memory is allocated before creating the object itself. So you cannot have a static blank final. Please remember this. You cannot have static blank finals. Okay. Then another use of final is stop method overriding. So if you declare a method as a final into base class, that final method cannot be overridden in the derived classes. And next use of a final keyword is stop inheritance. So when I say stop inheritance, that means if you create a final class, that final class cannot be inherited into the child classes. So there is no inheritance possible on that final class. Is that clear? Okay, thanks, Raj. Other things that we have learned is the super keyword. Super keyword, one use is call base class or super class constructor. Okay, the super line has to be first line in the constructor, has to be the first line in the derived class constructor. And let's say if your base class is not having a default constructor, okay, and it has a parameterized constructor, so in that case in derived class you must have to call that parameterized constructor using the super keyword, because by default JVM implicitly tries to call the default constructor, but as there is no default constructor to your base class, you must have to call super and then give the parameters. All right, another use of super keyword is to call base class methods in derived class. Okay, this is another use. Okay, even that if method is overridden, still super dot method will call base class method. Okay, even though if that method is overridden, still you can use super dot method name, and this will call the methods which is coming from a base class, not the method which is there in the existing class. Okay, perfect. We also learned about this keyword. This keyword means current calling object and those things. All right, the only remaining topic from here is the access specifier. Okay, so there are different access specifiers. One is private, second is protected, third is public, and there is one more, that is default. Default, it means if you don't use any of these above three keywords, that means that variable or that method is going to be a default method. Now what is private? Let's go one by one. Okay, what is private? Private members. Okay, when I say members, that means it could be data or it could be methods. Okay, when I am referring member, so member is like a common term for it. It can be used as class member data, or it can be used for referring to class member methods. So if you declare member as a private, okay, then it can only be accessible in same class. Okay, you cannot access private member outside that class. All right, so we cannot access private members of class outside that class. Okay, I will give you an example. Let me create a new project with day 8 name. Access specifiers, creating new class. Okay guys, if you have any questions, you can stop by me any point and please ask your question in the chat window. Okay, so the class I'm creating is, let's take example, I want to create employee class. Okay, this time I will create this class in some package. You know, let's say users is my package. So this class will be created inside a user package. A user package is created and an employee class will be created. Guys, packages are very easy. Packages, we already discussed about packages. So packages are like logical collection of the classes and the packages again. So packages stores the classes. Okay. So let's talk about the public employee class and what are the data member we can have in employee. The first is employee ID, EMP ID. I'm following the Java practice, you know, Java coding standards while naming the variable. Name of that employee, string department he is working on, he is working into, location. Let's say that employee is working at Pune location and this area or something like that, you know, location to that specific company. I will not keep company name here because it is going to be common for all employees, so let's leave that part. I need a constructor also. It's always good habit, you know, because I will be requiring a constructor while initializing this object. So I'm going to use a constructor. Okay, the constructor name, the constructor will be a parameterized constructor and I want to take all of these parameters. So simply what I will do is I'm very lazy to type anything. Oops, it should be comma. Just delete the spaces. Alright, so I have a constructor with all this parameter. Now it is time to initialize the values. So this dot emp id, that means on that current object employee id equal to the local variable employee id. We had a discussion on this keyword, so I will directly use it. Perfect. Alright, so I have a constructor as well. One more thing I forgot is employee gets a salary, right? So I will create a double variable. Salary. Never, maybe one of you might be having salary in double variable, you know, that big number. So that's the reason I'm taking salary as a double. Okay, salary, and let's initialize that salary. Sorry, my bad. This dot salary is equal to salary, a local variable. Perfect. All right. Now the next part is I will create a main class. You know, I'm going to create a main class. You can create that main class in the same package or outside a package. For now, I will try to create a in the same package. Okay, so let's say give name as main class. Oh, what I did, I think I created by mistake. I created a project. Let me correct that mistake. Okay, add a main class. Class main class. Perfect. The main class should have main method. Okay. So yeah, let's create object of employee. Employee is equal to new employee, and it requires, you know, all these details. So let me pass on that detail. 101. I will give name as Vikas T. Department. Let's say IT software or QA or something, you know, which you can decide. Next part is the location. I work in Pune, and I get very less salary, let's say 10,000 rupees. All right, so that's it. So what I'm going to do is I will try to access the member of employee class. So I'm going to say e dot, I will get a list, department, employee ID, location, name, salary. Okay, all these variable are they private, guys? Yes, guys, are those private? No, right? So those are not private. That is the reason, you know, in main class, I can actually use those variable. So I can use default, employee ID, location, name, salary, as well as the other methods which are coming from the object class. We already learned why these methods are coming from object class. The reason is object class is the parent of all the classes in Java. So I can directly access the method. For example, I can say that department is equal to, you can give values, something like that. Let's say our department is, I can change that to, let's say, QA. Okay. So this is how I can actually access a variable. But now assume, I will make that department as private. Okay, then I won't be able to access the department because now it is private, right? A private variable or members can only be accessible within the same class. As you can see, that department is now private. I won't be able to access it outside the employee class. Okay, you can see that error. The department is not visible. So I will write a comment. Was are not accessible outside the same class. Is that clear, guys? Yes, no? Now what I will do is I will make all the data members private because this is the general standard. Most of the time we go with this approach. We make data as a private and the method has a different access. So I'm going to say, get salary method. It's a private method. I don't want to disclose my salary, so I will write private. It will return double value because get salary method should be returning a value double get salary. What type of method it is, guys? Is it a static method or an instance method? Please answer my question. Is it static method or instance method? Yes, it is an instance method. Okay, so private double get salary, I will simply return this dot salary. If you write simply return salary, still it is okay because there is no duplicate variable in the same scope, right? In that same method. So this is the salary method and which is private. What will happen if you try to access this method in other class? So in this class, I will try to access e dot get salary. The first thing, you don't see that option method in the list, but still I will type it, get salary. Okay. And this is supposed to give me error saying that get salary from the employee is not visible. I hope you can see that error message. Okay. All right. So salary, this is clear, right? This is confirmed that we cannot use a private member outside the same class. Okay. Guys, one more thing. It doesn't really matter whether you are member. I'm saying member, right? You know what is member. Member means it could be data member or method. So it doesn't really matter whether it is static or a non-static. If it is private, that member will not be accessible outside the same class. It could be static or non-static. It doesn't really matter. The same rule is applicable for other. For it doesn't really matter. Is it a static or a non-static? What matters is the access specifier. If you are trying to access that method is. Okay. Only the difference is going to be something like instance member will be accessible over an object, and the static member will be called on a class name. Okay. So only that is going to be a differ in this case. But this access specifier are applicable for both static as well as non-static. Okay, just let's continue. So I was saying that private members will not be accessible outside the same class. Okay, let's move ahead to the next access specifier. Next access specifier is protected. Okay, protected members can access in all derived classes. We can access the private member of a class outside. Oh my god. Oh, it's a really a big mistake. We cannot access private members. Thanks, Farhan. Sorry, I just missed that part. Okay. So private member can be accessible in all derived classes. Okay. Now how it is possible? So what I will do is I will come back here. Okay, I'm into a main. I will create a employee. Let's say employee is derived into software engineer. Okay. Okay, I will just say software engineer. Fine. All right. So I will say that extends employee. Okay. So when I say extends employee, this class must have a constructor which is going to call the parameterized constructor of employee, right? So I just applied a quick fix. It's very easy. Just go here on the error message and use this quick fix add constructor with which is going to call the student software engineer in with this parameter. So I'm creating a constructor with integer employee ID, name, department, location, and the salary. I will for software engineer there could be a one more parameter extra. Let's say technology, string techno. Okay, so let me create that technology variable as a class member. The remaining all other parameter I will give it to the super. So super will call the constructor of employee, and the next line will be this dot technology is equal to local variable technology. All right. So I'm done with creating the constructor. I'm done with creating the software engineer class. And what I will do is I will have some method. Let's say the method name I'm writing here is show employee or something. Or let's go back to the employee class. Have some private method here. Private. Sorry, we are talking about protected. P-R-O-T-E-C-T-E-D. Protected. And it's going to return the department of that employee, assume. Okay, so get its department data type is string, get dpt, return department. Okay, so this is a protected method, and as I said, protected method can only be accessible inside a derived classes. So let me go to that derived class. So this is a derived class, and let's see if I want to. I'm creating a normal public method. It's just a normal public method which is not returning anything, and there I'm saying print department, and let's try to access that protected method which is coming from the department. Okay, so I will say this dot the protected method was get department. Can you see that icon? So green is for blue, yellow is for protected. Okay, so this is just some color coding standard from Eclipse, and yeah, you can actually access that method. Just say simply system.println, and I will get department. You can either say this dot get department or just simply get department. Both means the same thing. It's an instance method, right? Perfect. So this is a derived class, and derived class actually can use the protected members which are coming from a base class, that is employee. What will happen if I try to use the get department in the main class? As you can see, main class is not a child class. So if you say e dot get department, okay, let's see. All right, I will talk about this later. Oh, there is one more actually catch here. I will talk about this later. I have to. What I will do is I will come to this part. But I hope it is clear. can be accessible in all derived classes. Perfect. The next part is public. So public, it means the name, it's a public kind of property, so anybody can use it, crush it, break it, change the value, right? So it's a public property. We should use it carefully, because it is accessible everywhere and can be used anywhere. Public means actually no restriction, you do not have any restriction. Fine. So I don't think I really need to give any example on a public. You simply just create. If it is a static method, create the object, call it anywhere. If it is sorry, what I said. If it is a static method, just write class name dot method name and just call it. If it is an instance method, simply create the object anywhere. Create the object and just call that method anywhere. So there is no restriction on using the public members. Now let's go to the last option, that is default. Now default, if you don't write any of this above access specifiers, then that variable will become a default, and what does it mean? If a member is a default, it can be accessible within same package. Okay, sorry, if I say a member is a default, that member can be accessible within same package. So let's come here and in employee I will create a default method. Okay, default method, that means don't write anything, simply write a normal method, just write a method name. The method is supposed to return some value. I want to return location. Data type is string. Get location. This is the accessor method, also known as getter method. And in this method I am returning TURN, return location. Fine. Hope this is clear, right? I don't have any access specifier. That means this method is actually a default method. And as I said, default methods can be called in the same package. Now employee class belongs to user package. So any class which is there in the users package can actually call this get location method. So let's go to the main class, because this is main class and employee class, both are present in the same package. So I will try to use e dot. You can see that get location method is accessible, and you see a triangle. The triangle stands for it's a default member. Okay, so I will simply say that e dot get location. So this will return a value, and you can pick that location. Let's say LOC is equal to, you can store that location in some variable, and this is valid. You can actually call this way because default members are accessible. Oops. All right. So this is absolutely valid. So what we have covered so far is private, protected, public, and default. Guys, if I ask you, to arrange in the ascending order, I want the most secure first, then less secure, and at the end public will be there. So can you please give me an order from most secure to the least secure? Please post it in the chat window. I'm waiting. Okay, the answers I see is, the majority people are saying that private, protected, default, public, private, protected, default, public, private, protected, default, public. 1 2 4 1 2 4 3 1 2 4 3 private, default. Okay, 1 4 2 and 3. All right. Okay, very good. So let me tell you, order from most secure to least secure. The actual order is first private, no doubt about it. Okay, many people think that the next is going to be protected, but the answer is wrong. The actual answer is default. Default comes more secure, than protected. I will tell you why. Okay, I will tell you why. The next is default. Sorry, next is protected, and at the end, obviously, public, because this is the least secure. Now, why default comes before protected? I will tell you why. Protected members can be accessible in all derived classes. Okay. At the same time, I haven't told you one thing. At the same time, protected members are also in same package. Okay. So protected members can be accessible in all derived classes. Doesn't matter whether that class is present within same package, outside a package, or into new package or something. It doesn't really matter. Protected member will be always accessible in any package unless the class is child class of your parent. The child is that derived class. But same time, the protected member are also accessible in same package, and this rule is actually coming from default. So when you say protected, that means it is protected plus default. It is not just a protected. Okay. So automatically all the permissions which are there in the default is also assigned to a protected. But additionally, one more thing is protected can be accessible in all the derived classes. It doesn't really matter where is that derived class present. Is it in the same package or outside the package? So that is the reason default is more secure. Default doesn't allow us, to access that method or a member outside the current package. Doesn't, even though there is an inheritance, still the default doesn't allow us to access that member outside the current package. So default is more secure than protected. I hope this is clear. Okay, there is a question, Farhan. Sir, I have a question. Can a derived class be different package? Yes, obviously, right, Farhan? A derived class can be anywhere. It doesn't really matter that what package you are and which class you are deriving. So it doesn't really matter. Any other question, guys? How default is more secure? I think I already explained that, but let me tell you again. Protected means it can be accessible in all derived classes, as well as the protected member will be accessible in same package even if there is no inheritance. Okay, even if there is no inheritance, still protected member will be accessible in the same package. I will tell you, the example is very simple. Example is let's go to that employee class. It has a protected method, get department. Can I access this get department into main method? Okay. See, the obvious thing is we can access that get department into the student engineer. Sorry, what is that? Software engineer class. But as well as, even though main class is not extending the employee class, still you can say that get department. Okay. Okay, this is a protected method, as you can see that yellow square, a diamond. So this method is still be accessible even though there is no inheritance. Still you can access in the same package, but you cannot access in outside package. For example, outside a user, let me create a class. Okay, so class outside package, or let's say from some other package, and there I have again another main method. Let's copy paste the same code. Where is that? Yeah. Oops, this main method is added under user. I don't want that under user. Let's move it outside. Oops, I think I did something wrong. Actually that main method I want to in user class only. So yes, and this, oops, and this class outside the package I want into a default package. So let's move it there. I don't want this main class, so let's delete. It is just duplicate. Okay, so I have a main class. Okay, and in that class I'm creating object of employee. Let's copy paste the same code, and I will say e dot get dept. You can see that this method is not visible. Why it is not visible? Because it is protected, and protected member can only be accessible in derived class. Doesn't matter where is that class present, is it inside a package or outside a package. As well as protected member behave like a default if there is no inheritance. So is there any inheritance in this current class? No, right? There is no inheritance. It means it behaves like a default. So protected members acts like a default if there is no inheritance, and default means this method will only be accessible within the same package. So let's go back. In the main class, there you can see that get department is accessible because get department protected methods acts like a default method if there is no inheritance between these two classes. So in this main class, there is no inheritance between main class and the employee class. So I can actually call the get department in main class because protected members behaves like a default member if there is no inheritance with your current class and the class in which you are the class from which you are trying to access. I hope it is clear now. There is a question from Vijay. For protected calling method is in the parent class, so why we use this keyword for? Guys, see, let's go to the child class. Okay, here actually you can use this dot get department. Okay, the thing is get department method is coming from users class. Okay, it is coming from user class, but that method will come into which class? Student engineering, software engineering class. So I want to call that method on the current object, right? Obviously it's an instance method, and instance method will be always called on an object, and this method is automatically coming from the base class into the software engineering class. So it is there in the existing class, and I can call this method on the present calling object. So that is the reason I can call on this keyword. Super keyword should also work. Yep, super keyword should also work, but again this method is actually coming into my present class. So the method is there in my existing class as well. So I will say this dot get department. Both are going to be the same. So even super dot get department and this dot get department both are same. Okay, but in which case these are going to be different? Let's take example. I have get department method overridden. In that case, super.get department will call the child's get department. Let's say if I have get department overridden. Okay, so if I say super.get department, it will call the get department from the base class, and this dot get department will call this below method. But right now I just have only one copy of get department. So super dot get department and this dot get department both are same because there is only one copy of get department. There is no method overriding. I hope I answered your query. Can we call get department in a class outside using extend? Yes, we can do that because get department is a private. Sorry, it's a private method. It's a protected method, and protected method can be called anywhere if there is an inheritance. So let's say I have a class. Let's say let's say something. Let's say mechanical extends. In this class, if I try to use employee object, okay, I will just copy paste that line. I'm too lazy to type that line of code again and again. Why there is error? It is not visible. Okay, yeah, I forgot to tell you one more thing. Guys, see, I cannot create object of employee class outside a package. Okay, the reason is the constructor which I have defined. What is the access specifier for constructor, guys? Please tell me. What is the constructor access specifier for the constructor? It's a default. Very good. So as default member can only be accessible within same package, I can call this constructor within the same package. Okay. If I try to access that constructor outside a package, it will give me error that the constructor is not visible. So you won't be able to create object outside of that employee class, outside the same package. I hope it is clear now. So what I will do is I will make that constructor as public. So I should be able to call that. I should be able to create object of employee in this class. So not allowed. Okay, this is not allowed. But if I have an inheritance, let's say there is extends. Which class is that? What was that class? The class name was employee. Actually, there is one more thing. You will need a constructor, and still you won't be able to call like this. See, I will show you why. You can't use in a main method if that is the case. I will just tell you why. Okay, let's go to the mechanical class. I don't want to use the public static void main because I will be trying to access on the object. So there is a mechanical class, or a mechanic is extending employee. Extends employee. Perfect. And there for a mechanic, again we need a constructor. That constructor should call the parameterized constructor of employee. So I got that constructor added as well. Perfect. And then let's say there is some extra method for mechanic, let's say do repair or something, or build some machine or something. So public build machine. This method is not returning anything, so I will make say void. And this method, as it is extended from employee, this method can actually call the protected members of employee. So I will say this dot, what was the protected member? Get department. Perfect. So this is possible. You can call the protected members into your derived class, even though the derived class is present outside the same package. This package, as you can see. I will just comment on this line. Perfect. Fine. Question: why we need to call para constant in subclass? Para constant, parameter constant. I didn't get that. Can we have own construct? Again, I didn't get that. We have to. We already discussed this, Raj. We already discussed. What is constructor? Constructor creates a constraint on creating the object. If you don't call a constructor, you won't be able to create the object. If you don't have a default constructor, JVM will add it. If you have a parameterized constructor, JVM is not going to add default constructor. And as you don't have a default constructor, you will have to call the parameterized constructor. We already covered this topic. You might have to go back and revise these videos again. All right. So I hope you understood why private, default, protected, why it is not private, protected, default, and public. In this case, can we also use just get department instead of this? Yeah, absolutely, Farhan. You don't have to say this every time, as there is no duplicate method, right? Is there any other method, local variable or something? No, but it is always a good programming practice to give this. It's always good programming practice, because this dot get department tells me, okay, this is an instance method and I'm calling on current object. So if it is a class member, so I would write the class name dot method name. So nothing much, but it is always good programming practice to write this. Any other questions, guys? Why did you say about data members should be private and methods could be public, private, protected, anything, default. It depends on you. The reason is, if you remember the object-oriented programming, the first session that we started on object-oriented programming, I talked about keeping the data secure and writing the methods around the data to access it. So that concept is achieved if you are making the data as private. But if you are making the data as a public, then it doesn't really, I mean, then why are you having the different access specifier? It doesn't make sense, right? So data member has to be, or the, the standard way of, uh, you know, generally we try to secure the data. So we make that data member as private, and methods depending on the different access specifier. That's the general syntax we go with. Can we write private data member in public class? I haven't told you anything about public class yet, but yeah, fine. If yes, then how to call that data member? There is no difference, right? I mean, see, it's simply you can have a private data member in a public class. For example, let's go to that example. I think you have not looked that example carefully. Let me go to employee. What is this class? Class is public. It is containing what? Private member. You cannot access this member outside the same class. Then how to get the access to this variable? It's very easy. Let's say I want to access salary, write some method and call that method something like that. Or let's say I want to access the department, write a method with some access specifier and then access the department. So this is the way we try to access it. Okay. Any other questions, please? In public method, can you have a private data member? Okay, this is your question. So, okay, in public member, sorry, in method, there are two type of variable, right? Variable scope. One variable scope is the class level. All these variable are class level or the fields or the members of a class. But the variable which you declare inside a method is considered as a local variable. Let's say I'm writing no. Okay, this is my local variable. But so for local variable, you cannot write any access specifier. You cannot write private, you cannot write protected, public or anything. There should be just a default. Let's say if I try to write public to the local variable, it will give me errors saying that illegal modifier for parameter no. So you cannot write access specifier to the local variable. Okay, I hope it is clear. Prashant, it depends on you. Your question is, that means if we make private member, that means we need to write method for every private data member. It depends on you, Prashant. Okay, it depends on you. What do you want to do? You can write single method that will do some operation, or it is not necessary, right? Every time you return the value of the private member. Let's say you don't want to return the value of a private member. That private member is only for internal use, not for exposing outside your class. In that case, you don't need a private public method, right? So this is how it is. It depends on you. If you want to secure data, make it private. Do not allow access outside it. Even you may don't want any method that will return value of that private member. So you can do that. It depends on your implementation. There is no hard and fast rule as such. But let's say you wanted to share, you want to return the data of a private member, you can create a method which is returning the value of private field. Hope this is clear. I would request you guys to again watch this video. Any other questions? Okay, there is a question from Avinash. Can we create object of protected class in a child class from different package? First thing, we don't have a protected class. Okay, we don't have a protected class. A class can be either default. You are talking about protected class. It means this is public class, guys. If you write protected, you will get error. You can have a default class or a public class only. You cannot write private and protected class. So your question is invalid, Avinash. Okay, but there could be one catch. For example, what will happen? I will ask you a few questions now. Okay, what if? Okay, first question: can we have private constructor? Okay, can we have a private constructor, guys? Please answer yes, no. Raj is saying yes. Anonymous no. Farhan yes. No, 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 no. I see majority people saying no. Actually, the answer is yes. Okay, it's interesting, right? It's really interesting. So the answer is yes. Now, why? You think about it. You know how it is possible to have a constructor as a private. There could be two possibilities. You know. So let me tell you how it is possible. Create a class and create private constructor. Okay. So by making private constructor, you say that object cannot be created outside same class. Okay. Now what you can do is in that class you can have all static method. You can have all static methods. And how to access this static method? We write class name dot method name. You don't need object, right? You don't need object to call a static method. So what you will do is you will simply say that class name dot static method name. All right, and this is the way you can access the methods which are coming from the private, which is coming from a class which has a private constructor. But there is one more thing. The static method in the same class can create object of that class, because we are calling the constructor within the same class. So it is possible that static method in the same class can create the object of same class. But I think, am I making more complicated? I think we are going into more and more detail about the Java. I mean, it is always good to go into more details, but I don't want to create a confusion for those who are learning Java for the first time. You know, I don't want to, get them afraid of the Java and its difficulty level. So I think I should restrict somewhere. You know, we are not really going into that complex level, but yes, this scenario is possible, and this is mostly used in. I will just give you one example. Singleton pattern. You know, we use a singleton pattern where we make constructor as a private. But for those who don't know what is singleton pattern, just ignore it. You know, that is absolutely fine. What Raj is saying, outside same class. Outside, and again you are saying same class. I don't know. Okay. Okay, private can also use in some same class, so we can create object in same class. Yes, Vijit, we can create object of the same class into the same class. Yes, it is possible. Okay. For example, we have seen an example, right? Let's say this is a employee class. In employee class, I will write one method. I will write a main method directly, and there I can create object of employee, right? So this is how I'm creating object of same class in the same class method. So it is possible, right? Fine, but just ignore it. And as you can see, that main class is what? It's a static method. So you know, this could be another way to make this constructor private and simply directly call a main, and main is actually creating the object of that and then calling this. But just ignore it. I just wanted to tell you that yes, it is possible. We can have a private constructor and it is used. One example is singleton pattern. If you don't know what is singleton pattern, please go and Google it, try to learn it. Any other question, guys? Okay, I will ask you next question. Can we have protected constructor. I see 2 yes, 1 no, 3 yes, 2 no. The score is 3-2. Okay, 4-2. I'm just counting the score. 5-2. It's available, same package. Okay, Suresh says no. 5-3, 5-4, 6-4. All right, so I see a mixed kind of reply. Let me tell you the answer. Yes, we can, right? By making a constructor as a protected, okay? By making a constructor as protected, that means you cannot, that means, you can use this class for you can actually create object, that means you can create object by 2 ways. By 2 ways. First one is write static method inside same class and create object. Okay, protected member are accessible in same class. Another option is in same package. Do you remember that protected members are accessible within same package even though there is no inheritance? And third way, actually there are 3 ways, not 2. Okay, and the third is you can call protected constructor in derived class constructor. Which keyword we use? We use super keyword. So this is possible. If you have a private constructor, you cannot inherit a private constructor. Let me tell you that thing. No possible on private constructor class, a class with a private constructor. Okay, that I forgot to tell you that point. So yes, it is possible to have a protected constructor, but if you have a protected constructor, that means you can create the object by 3 ways. One is create a static method within the same class and create object, because it is in the same class, right? Another is in the same package, because it's a protected. Protected acts like a default within if it is used in the same package. And third is you can actually call the protected constructor in derived class constructor. Okay, so yeah, inheritance is becomes possible if you have protected constructor. And the remaining is the default constructor. You can create the object within same package, and the public you can create the object anywhere. And that's all. This completes the access specifier with all the access. Any questions now? Any questions, guys? Please let me know if you have any questions. I don't see any question on chat window. Okay, I will send this chat here. I don't know if I can send this full chat. Guys, it's very difficult to give some assignment. The assignment could be whatever I'm doing. Let's say if I'm saying that private member are only accessible within the same class. So the assignment is go and try it. Write a class, create a private member, and try to access it outside a class. So you have to do all this permutation combination by yourself. I can't give you a specific assignment that, okay, develop this software and develop this program and using this private and protected. These are building blocks of your language, and we don't have assignments on this. If you want to really try it, watch this video again and just validate, what I'm saying is right or wrong, and just, this is the way you will learn it. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't see any questions. Thanks for attending this session. In the next session, I think we will start with interfaces. I think abstract classes first, right? Thank you. Thank you, guys.